Okay, I hope this is part 4 of Passport to Magonia on UFOs, Folklore, and Parallel Worlds by Jacques Vallée. Start rings in the moonlight. This section is devoted to several types of artifacts claimed by popular tradition to be supernatural origin, fairy rings, and saucer nests. Obviously fall into this category, although such phenomena are treated as borderline cases by specialists in UFO investigation. I believe that nests deserve more than a passing attention and should be considered in light of specific traditional beliefs about the meaning of the magic circles that for centuries farmers have found in their fields. The literature on this subject is of course abundant, and we shall select only a few cases to illustrate the point and to set the stage for the most detailed discussion in latter chapters. On Thursday, July 28, 1966, in the evening, Mr. Lacoste, I guess it is Lacosta, I don't know how to speak French, and his wife were walking in the vicinity of I don't know how to pronounce Montsoreau, Maine et Loire, France. And I probably said all that wrong. All of a sudden, they saw a red sphere cross the sky like a meteor. It did not behave quite as a meteor, however, because it seemed to touch the ground and then rise again without losing its brilliant red color, and hover at mid-height for a while before it was lost to sight. A check was made for military experts in the area, and there were none. The next day, a Montsoreau farmer, Alain Roulette, I guess, reported that a 9 square yard area of her wheat field has been flattened and covered with a yellowish oil substance. Further investigation and disclosed additional details on the identity of the witnesses and substantiated the idea that a particular object had indeed landed. Lacoste, it probably didn't sound that way, is a photographer in Saumur. Unfortunately, he did not carry a camera with him at the time. He described the light given off by a sphere as being so intense that it lit up the whole countryside. The sphere hovered, he said, for a few seconds, and then it maneuvered close to the ground. The witness felt sure that it was a guided military gadget and walked to a distance about 400 yards from the object, which went away and was lost to sight behind some woods. The whole sighting had lasted 4 minutes. The sixth, like I said, last recording, that's quite a long time, 4 minutes. 6 months earlier, a rash of similar sightings had made headlines in Australia. More flying saucer nests was the big news on the front page of the Sydney Sun Herald for July 23, 1966. 3 nests had been discovered in Queensland. Circular clearings of dead reeds surrounded by green reeds. Hundreds of sightseers were searching for more by the time the reports were published. On January 19, 1966, at 9 a.m., a 27-year-old banana grower, George Pedley, was driving his tractor in the vicinity of a swamp called Horseshoe Lagoon when he suddenly heard a loud hissing noise. It sounded like air escaping from a tire, he said. Isn't that interesting? People describe touching these aliens, they feel like the Michelin Man. Interesting. Some form of plasma. He said then 25 yards in front of him, he saw a machine rising from the swamp. It was blue-gray, about 20 live feet across and 9 feet high. It was spinning and rose to about 60 feet before moving off. It was all over in a few seconds. It moved that terrific speed, said Pledley. Then he found something first nest. Then he found, I don't know what that is. Some of these, for some reason, I don't get. Anyways, where are we at with all this? Then he found something like first nest with reeds flattened in a clockwise direction. City Sun Herald sent a reporter, Ben Davy, to investigate the sighting. It was discovered that dozens of people in the area had seen strange saucer-like craft similar to the one reported by Pedley, and most of them before his sighting. Davy found a total of 5 nests and published the following description. I saw clearings in the reeds where they took off. It was as everyone described it. In a circle roughly 30 feet in diameter, reeds had been cut and flattened in a clockwise direction. One of the nests is a floating platform of clotted roots and reeds, and apparently torn by tremendous force from the mud bottom beneath 5 feet of water. Really? Why would you do that? Why would a human being want to do that too? Even if it's a hoax. That's a lot of work. The second and third nest had been found, respectively, by Tom Warren, a cane farmer of Yoramo, and Mr. Penny of Thule, school teacher. They were about 25 yards from the first one, but hidden by dense shrub. And the third nest, which seemed quite recent, the reeds were flattened in a clockwise direction. All the reeds were dead, but they had not been scorched or burnt. A patch of couch grass, about 4 feet square and 3 feet from the boundary of the first disc, had been chipped at water level, thereby adding a new element of the mystery. Altogether, the rings varied in diameter from 8 to 30 feet. In all but the smallest, the reeds had been flattened in a clockwise direction. Needless to say, the police collected samples for tests. The scientists came with Geiger counters, and the Royal Australian Air Force intelligence people were all over the place. Rumors circulated blaming the Soviets for using the vast open spaces of Australia to develop scientific ideas 1 or 2 centuries ahead of those of the Americans. Why the Soviets could not conduct their secret tests in the vast open spaces of Siberia was not disclosed. Neither was it revealed why the pilots of the super secret communist weapon could not resist the temptation to buzz the tractor of a 27-year-old banana grower. Fortunately, there were several natural explanations for the sightings of the nest, although only one hypothesis accounted for both. The latter was suggested by a Sydney Sun-Herald reader on January 30th. He believes that the outer space panic of Queensland was caused by a tall, shy bird with a blue body and red markings on its head. It was either a type of broga or blue heron, but the man did not know the correct scientific name. Many times as he wandered barefoot through the bush, he said he had seen the birds dancing, but they flew away at high speed before he could reach them. They would resemble a vaporous blue cloud and would certainly make a whirl sound in the flight. Unfortunately, for this pretty and imaginative theory, it got no backing from the Australian Museum. Ornithologist H.J. Disney thought the brogas could not make circular depressions of symmetrical design. He was simply skeptical about the bald-headed coot theory, advanced by another man, Gulu Gog resident Ken Adams. I never heard of this habit by the bird, Disney said. Donald Hanlon, one of the best informed specialists in the field, has pointed out to me that another example of a nest has been proposed locally. They are the playground of crocodiles in love. I fully share Hanlon's skepticism about this last explanation because it could hardly apply to the nests found in Ohio, which will be discussed in a moment, or the damaged wheat field of Montsaru. A Queensland resident, Alex Bardujunko, who knows about the crocodiles, claims that the reeds are too thick and Horseshoe Lagoon for crocodiles to move through them. So here we are. Dancing cranes are held responsible for some people for bending reeds that are so thick crocodiles, according to other people, cannot move through them. What caused the damage? Nobody knows. On his way home on Wednesday night, George Pedley decided he would tell no one about the spacecraft in the swamp. He saw neither portals or antenna on the blue-gray object, and no sign of life either inside or about it. Furthermore, he had always laughed at flying saucer stories, but then he met Albert Penisi, the owner of Horseshoe Lagoon, and disclosed the sighting. He was very surprised when Pennaisai believed him right away and told him he had been dreaming for a week that a flying saucer would land on his property. This last detail places the Queensland saucer nest in the best tradition of fairy faith, which is interesting. He said he was dreaming about having a UFO show up, right? And this power of intent and focusing. I noticed since I've been focusing on writing my book, instead of thinking about filming stuff, but I've still been filming stuff, just going on my back and just taking some pictures, that the last 3 days I have hardly felt it, at least it appears, that I've filmed anything. So I wonder if they pay attention to our motives, our desires, our greatest desires, what's motivating most powerfully at the present time in our lives, or whatever it may be, So because I'm focusing on writing my book, I'm not getting as much of a show. Like my trickster spirits might be playing me. I do not know. That's part of the problem with this whole place. We don't know. We don't know much about anything. We just think we do. The Ohio incident. So the Ohio incident was carefully investigated by A. Canduso and Larry Movers of the Flying Saucer Investigation Committee, accompanied by Gary Davis. They found the strange circular formation on Stavano's farm, which is situated on a high point. At the center of the ring was a circular depression about 28 inches in diameter. It was probed with a pinch bar, but only loose soil was found for a depth of 9 inches. Much of the wheat had been removed, roots and all, and clods of soil a few inches long had been disturbed. The wheat was laid down like the spokes of a wheel. There was no swirling effect as in the Thule nests. If we turned from Australia to Ohio to England, we are faced with another incident. July 16th, 1963 will long be remembered in the annals of British ufology. Something appeared to have landed on Farmer Roy Blanchard's field at the Manor Farm, Charlton, Wiltshire. The marks on the ground were first discovered by a farmer, Reg Alexander. They overlapped a potato field and a barley field. The marks comprised a saucer-shaped depression or crater 8 feet in diameter and about 4 inches in depth. In the center of this depression, there was found a 3-foot deep hole, variously described as from 5 inches to a foot in diameter, radiating from the central hole were 4 slots marks, 4 feet long and 1 foot wide. The object must have landed. If land it did, unseen, but Mr. Leonard Jolliffe, maybe that's what it is, Jolliffe, a dairyman on the farm, reported he heard a blast one morning at approximately 6 a.m. On July 23, The London Daily Express was to report that nearly 2 weeks earlier, on July 10, Police Constable Anthony Penny had seen a orange object flash through the sky and vanish near the Manor Farm field. On this basis of this limited information, it would seem quite plausible to think that the Charlton's crater was caused by a meteorite. Indeed, when a small piece of metal was recovered from the hole at the center of the crater, British astronomer Patrick Moore went to the British Broadcasting Corporation and stated categorically that the crater had been caused by a shrimp-sized meteor crashing down and turning itself into a very effective explosion. This ended the mystery as far as the scientific public was concerned. But the true facts of the matter, as they became known to a few scientists who pursued the matter further, to the Army engineers who were in charge of the investigation, were altogether different. Farmer Roy Blanchard had sent for the police, who in turn had summoned the Army. Captain John Rogers, of course, Chief of Army Bomb Disposal Units, of the Army Bomb Disposal Unit, was the man who conducted most of the field investigations. His preliminary report indicated that there were no burn or scratch marks, no trace of an explosion, and while Captain Rogers stated that he and his superiors were baffled, Farmer Roy Blanchard macked further disclosure. Or supposed to be lacked. I don't know. It says mac. There is a trace of the potatoes and barley which were growing where the crater is now. No stalks, no roots, no leaves. The thing was heavy enough to crush rocks and stones to powder. Yet it came down gently. He heard no crash, and whatever power it used produces no heat or noise. Then on July 19th, it was reported by Captain Rogers that had obtained permission to sink a staff. So Captain Roger had obtained permission to sink a staff. The readings obtained were rather unusual. They indicated a metallic object of some size, deeply embedded. It was further learned that detectors behaved wildly, presumably because the metallic piece in question was highly magnetic. At this stage, it should be pointed out, the investigation was still open and above board, possibly because the Army, rather than the British Air Ministry, was involved. And the Army Southern Command Public Relations Officer at Salisbury told Gervin, Lillet? I don't know. It's another It just, for some reason, it's had a hard time with anything that got eyes in it. The letter I. Anyways, I don't know what it is. The object was recovered from the hole. It was sent to British Museum expert and promptly identified as a piece of common iron stone, which could be found buried all over southern England. The British Museum suggested that it had been lured in the ground for some time, thus eliminating the idea of whatever hoax. And Dr. F. Carlingbowl, keeper of the Department of Mineralogy at the museum, destroyed the meteorite explanation. Something, son of a gun. They really had a hard time with this page as far as copying it. Idea of a hoax. We're supposed to say of a hoax. Dr. F. Carlingbowl, keeper of the Department of Meteorology of the museum, destroyed the meteorite explanation. Something, according to the Yorkshire Post, July 27, stated, "There is more in this than meets the eye." The last words stayed with Southern Command, however, and it commented wisely. The cause of the phenomena is still unexplained, but it is not part of something Army's task to reveal such mysteries. If we try to summarize what we have learned from this incident, these incidences, the Toilet Nest, the Ohio Ring, the Carlton Crater, we can state the following. 1. Public rumor associates sightings with flying something. Maybe it's supposed to be rings? Sightings of flying saucers with the discovery of circle depressions on the ground. 2. When vegetation is present at site, it exhibits something, a connection of a connection or contact, or and I don't know what it says there. Damn, I hope it doesn't stay this way. Exhibits the mention of flattened force, which produces either a stationary pattern, spokes of a wheel, or rotating pattern clockwise or counterclockwise. 3. Some of the vegetation is usually removed, and sometimes with the roots, leaves, etc. 4. The effect of a very strong vertical force is often noticed, as evidenced by earth and plants scattered around the site. 5. Strong magnetic activity has been found in one instance where common iron stone was buried close to the center of the depression. And 6. A deep hole a few inches in diameter is often present at the crater. Do I need to remind the reader of the celebrated habit of fairies to leave behind them strange rings in the fields and prairies? Well, there you go. One Sunday in August, as we wandered over the hills of Howth, whence met some local people with whom he discussed these old tales. I guess that's what he meant to say. After he had tea with the man, his daughter, they took him to the field close by to show him the fairy ring. And while he stood in the ring, they told him, yes, the fairies do exist. And this is where they do have often been seen dancing. The grass never gets high in the lines of the ring, for it is only the shortest and finest kind of growth there. In the middle, fairy mushrooms grow in the circle, and the fairies use them to sit on. They are very little people and are very fond of dancing and singing. They wear green coats and sometimes red caps and red coats. On November 12, 1968, the Argentine press reported that near Necochea, 300 miles south of Buenos Aires, a civilian pilot had reported a strange pattern on the ground and investigated it with several military men. Walking to the spot where the flying saucer was earlier alleged to have landed, they found a circle 6 yards in diameter where the earth was calcined. I guess it must be the right word, calcined. Inside the circle grew 8 giant white mushrooms, one of them nearby 3 feet in diameter. In Santa Fe province, other extraordinary mushrooms had been discovered under similar circumstances. Let's find out what that means. Let's see if we can find that word. Calcined. Sort of pretend I know what it means.
Calcined.
Calcined. Reduced, oxidized, desiccated by roasting or exposing to strong heat. Calcined. So that is a word. Okay. Now we know what it is. What it means. Inside the circle grew 8 giant white mushrooms, and one of them nearly 3 feet in diameter. In Santa Fe province, other extraordinary mushrooms had been discovered under similar circumstances. Another writer reported on Scandinavian legends noted that elves are depicted there as beings with oversized heads and tiny legs and long and tiny legs and long arms. They are responsible for the bright green circles called elfdons that one sees on the lawns. Even nowadays, when a Danish farmer comes across such a ring at dawn, he says that the elves have come there during the night to dance. It is amusing to note that attempts have been made in early days of rationalism to explain fairy rings as electrical phenomena, a consequence of atmospheric effects. P. Maranzona, for example, quotes a little couplet by Erasmus Darwin, the grandfather of the English naturalist, written in 1789. So from the dark clouds, the playful light springs, rives the firm oak, and prints the fairy rings. And according to Erasmus Darwin, there is a phenomenon supposed to be electrical which is not yet accounted for. I mean the fairy rings, as they are called, so often seen on the grass. And at times, large parts or prominences, is that how you pronounce it? Prominences of clouds gathering, sinking as they move along, are discharged on the moisture parts of the grassy plains. Now, this knob or corn of a cloud, in being attracted to the earth, will bring nearly circular as loose wool would do when drawn out into a thread, and it will strike the earth with a stream of electricity, perhaps 2 or 10 yards in diameter. Just the external part of the cylinder burns the grass. The formulation of this kind is in terms of modern plasma physics will no doubt soon be provided by eager scholars. They would do well, however, to note that the diameter of the cylinder mentioned by the elder Darwin was 2 to 10 yards, the diameter of the average flying saucer. Angels or devils? Angels or devils? Let's see what's going on here.
You're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind.
Don't know, you should take it slow. Are you searching? Is it hard to find? If you're broken, running out of time, what you don't have is any peace of seasons don't change who we are. The good is gone, but there's nowhere to go. If I can't